Okay, so I've got a very interesting video for you guys today. Do we or do we not have free will? But before I get onto the actual content, there are some things I need to talk about first relating to the channel and the kind of content that I've been making now. As you guys know, and as I explicitly say on my channel bio, channel description, and in like numerous videos that I've made and I'm currently making, this channel is a philosophy channel first and foremost, right? This is not a MGTOW, red pill or black pill channel. I've completely disassociated myself from these kinds of labels and terms because, in my opinion, they don't represent objective truth. They just represent, or philosophy. They just represent like whining and bitching about women, partly, and all they do in these communities is just talk about women and other things, and it's just not really, it's not something I want to really associate myself with at all. I don't really want to interact with that kind of ideology and certain communities in there, because it doesn't provide me with any value. It doesn't provide you guys with any value, most of you guys anyway. Especially you guys who are here for the philosophy stuff, which is the main focus on this channel now. Lately, especially since the start of the new year, I have been talking a lot about a lot more social issues, and the reason for that is because the reason for that is because I just wanted to talk about some things. I've gotten video requests as well, and I wanted to get these things out of the way before I actually like touch on the actual philosophy stuff. And I'm going to start talking a lot more about things like religion. I've had a video that I've wanted to make for a long time talking about why like Christianity and Islam are evil and stuff, and like my own view for like a new religion. But yeah, that's coming in the future. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Maybe I should have put this in a community post, but less people would have seen it. So I wanted to make this video. I wanted to put it at the start of this video. Now, uh, another thing I'd like to apologize for is the like stock print on the background of this image, because this is the image I wanted to use, but I couldn't find it without like the what's it called, watermark or whatever they call it. So yeah, apologies. It's irritating for me as well, but yeah. So yeah, let's just get into the video now. Do we or do we not have free will? I'm probably going to make this in two parts because it's such a contested and like serious topic. Now, when I made that video on consciousness here, I stated that, well, I'm pretty sure I stated that neuroscientists or neuro, uh, whatever you call them, like the people that study the mind, right? Scientists, and like other people like that, they came to the conclusion, well, actually the opposite. They came to the conclusion that you can't define consciousness, that it's mysterious, right? Now, when it comes to free will, it's a little different. Free will is something that a lot of neuroscientists and other people who are like professionals in the field with qualifications understand. A lot of them have come to the conclusion that we don't have free will, but we have something called a free won't, right? So what does that mean? Yeah, that we can say no to certain things, right? But the problem is with this sort of consensus, I personally don't think we have free will, but that doesn't mean that we are that the universe is purely deterministic. If you guys know what that means, so determinism is the view that everything is predetermined, whether it be by God, although not so much nowadays, but whether it be by God, whether it be by just the forces of the universe. Some people believe that quantum mechanics determines free will or not, although that's a little bit out there. But um, I've got a lot of opinions when it comes to free will, right? And this is why I'm going to split the video up into two, because I need to do more reading when it comes to this. I've done my reading on consciousness, which is why I made just one part of that video. But when it comes to free will, I've got to do my readings first. This is just going to be like my initial thoughts on it and my ideas when it comes to this. Now, one thing that I don't really see people mentioning when it comes to free will, no one mentions Schopenhauer when it comes to free will, right? And it's a little bit out there, but I want to talk about why I think, because I'm a Schopenhauerian, right? I believe that Schopenhauer had the right ontology and metaphysics when it came to this existence, not just when it comes to my personal experience, but when I analyze the world around me, when I analyze society, when I analyze the nature of the masses, all kinds of other things, right? And I've read a lot of his books, and well, most of them anyway. Some of his volumes are too big for me to read, but I've studied a lot of material, and I've come to the conclusion that his ontology and metaphysics is mostly correct. And of course, I disagree with him on a lot of things as well, but I agree with him on the main tenets of his philosophy, primarily his world as will, yeah, and some of the world as representation, but a lot of the world as will I agree with, right? If you've studied Schopenhauer, you know the difference, right? Now, Schopenhauer says that pain is the fundamental force of reality, right? It motivates all creatures, right? And our primary kind of like drive is to avoid pain, right? And like pleasure is a negative force because of like how it is felt, right? So you can't really feel pleasure. It's more so the elimination of some kind of negativity, and pain is what's positive because it makes its presence known, it makes itself felt, and that, to me, that's just undeniable, in my opinion, of course. Now, when it comes to this, I think that no one really talks about how even if you disagree with Schopenhauer, right, you agree that most people try to avoid suffering, right? But no one talks about that in relation to free will, right? So when you think about suffering in relation to free will, right, the fact that suffering is so predominant, whether you're a Schopenhauerian or not, we can all agree that there's a lot more pain than pleasure in life, a lot more negativity than positivity in this life, especially, right? Then we can all agree, right, that the fact that there's so much suffering kind of denotes free will somewhat, because you're always trying to you're always trying to hold off pain, keep it at bay, right? Meanwhile, even if you're chasing pleasure, right, and that's something I want to get onto as well, right? Even if you're chasing pleasure, you're just doing that because of a will, because of lusts and desires, and that again is another reference to Schopenhauer, right? As you guys know, or most of you guys know anyway, Schopenhauer said that we are controlled by lusts and desires. Buddhism says the same thing, right? So we're caught in this trap, really, between pleasures. Right? So pleasures are basically non-existent in a way. Not that they're non-existent, but they're much weaker than pains. That's what I think. They exist, but they're much weaker than pains. And so we exist in this situation of having to constantly ward off pain or negativity, and always having to chase desires. And I think that kind of mitigates the idea of free will somewhat. Now, this doesn't really address that's more on the metaphysical side, right? But that doesn't really address the stuff relating to the brain. Like, can the brain consciously pick its own decisions, right? Or is it just like following a script? Now, another thing I want to talk about when it comes to this is, you guys know the difference between the conscious and the subconscious mind, right? Now, the conscious mind is like, I think, 10% of the mind, and the subconscious is like 80 to 90% of the rest. And the subconscious mind is just like habits and other things, and like just like things that have been developed over time that are just automatic, right? The conscious mind, you can control it, but it doesn't control the subconscious. Actually, the subconscious kind of controls the conscious. I'm probably wrong about that, but yeah. So another thing is like the subconscious mind, right? And it's so hard to actually like rewire yourself, right? To like rewire that subconscious mind, if it is at all possible. I mean, I've tried this and it didn't work out, right? But I don't think I personally, I've seen this around me like a couple of times. Well, actually, quite often, people can't really because people can't choose what influences them. I mean, for instance, like, here's the thing: one negative experience, like, I'm going to talk about me, right? One negative experience can easily live in my head. Meanwhile, like, like, I can't remember like vividly, right? And this is not imprinted on my mind and memory, but the positive experiences that I've had are like barely registered, right? That's going back to Schopenhauer, but back to the conscious and the subconscious mind, right? Do you really have control over that, right? You can't control your emotions. You can't control you can't control the circumstances that you're in, what family you're in, what social position you're in, what resources you have a lot of the time. Money as well. That's another thing, right? You have to work to eat in this world, right? A lot of things are not up to you. So in what sense do you have free will? And as I said, this video is just part one. This is just my thoughts, right? My theories when it comes to this. And I'm going to do my reading for this because I've got like a little book on this. And I'm going to do my reading and I'm going to get back to you guys with part two. And I mean, there's some other things I want to say as well. It's like, so I said that that neuroscientists say that we have a free won't, right? So there, we use our conscious mind to examine what could happen, right? So we examine the situation and then we consciously say no, right? We consciously say, okay, I'm not going to do this. Or you think about the ethical consequences of that, or the harms that can be inflicted on other people or yourself, and you pull back from that, right? So the conscious mind has some limit on the subconscious and its desires and stuff, but it's not overriding, and it's not even like 50%. It's way less than that, right? And that in my opinion is like another argument against this, right? So yeah, stay tuned for part two. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and I look forward to reading them as always, and see you guys in the next one, I guess. Bye.